And for more, we're very pleased to be joined by Wendy Szymanski, the chapter lead for the Greater New York City division of Moms Demand Action for Gun Saints in America. Welcome, Wendy. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Well, first off, let me ask you, because stand your ground, obviously, since the shooting and certainly since the verdict, has been front and center. The president even spoke about it last week, and the reaction this weekend on the talk shows for gun advocates very critical. The president, they think, using political opportunism to weigh in on that. Can you tell us, because I know your organization has looked into not just Florida, but the different states that have employed stand your ground. Is there any definitive takeaways here, whether it works or it doesn't work?
Absolutely, yes. Texas A&M actually did a study on this, and they found that in a survey of 20 states that had enacted stand your ground laws, shootings actually increased after the laws were put into effect. So it's not a law that helps deter violent crime, or some argue that a stand your ground law helps dissuade violent crime. In fact, the opposite has been shown. There is a clear increase in shooting deaths after the enactment of stand your ground laws.
You know, Wendy, on this program, before Newtown, certainly after Newtown, I've talked till I'm blue in the face about how we have a huge cultural challenge in this country that we're not willing to acknowledge, about the senselessness of so much gun violence for a host of different reasons. But I was told by lawmakers, by experts, by people on both sides that things would be different after Newtown. I know you joined your organization after that horrible day, but yet nothing on the federal level. If in fact you see on state levels more lax gun laws as a consequence, by and large, with a few exceptions. Why should the general public, even if they overwhelmingly want background checks and a few other guidelines in place that the president and the administration do, why should the public think that this will ever really change if after a horrific event like Newtown, that wasn't even enough to get Washington to get off the dime here and do something? Well,
it wasn't enough after Newtown to get the Senate to pass one particular piece of legislation. But I don't think it's correct to say that after Newtown nothing's changed. Some of the senators who voted against the background check legislation, after those votes, they have seen their popularity slide by large numbers. I believe Jeff Flake in Arizona stated that his popularity after the vote was akin to pond scum, and Senator Ayotte in New Hampshire saw a marked decline in her popularity. So I think the senators underestimated the extent of the sea change in popular opinion in this culture, and not only that, the extent to which people are standing up and taking notice. It's not true anymore that the NRA is the only one keeping tabs on this. There are a lot of people who are watching this issue very closely, and in the past we've had the gun lobby being able to mobilize a very vocal minority on this issue, and I think what you're going to see now is a vocal majority stepping up to fight for common sense gun laws.
You know, Wendy, groups like your own and obviously the Newtown parents, even though there's been gun rights critics who've gone after those voices, I don't know how, but they did. It's hard to make that argument, but they've seized on the opportunity that Mayor Bloomberg, basically being both the insight as well as also the money behind the Mayors Against Gun Violence, they've chosen to make him here the foil to go after. In retrospect, has that organization, while we may agree with everything that they had to say, have they provided too easy of a rebuttal icon for the gun rights group? If the next fight about restricting either access, background checks, ammo clips, assault weapons, whatever it is, will it be better if that argument comes from groups like your own or like the victims' families in Newtown?
Well, I think as you mentioned, you saw politicians who were unafraid to lambast the Newtown families and to say things like, "Oh, they've made a mistake. They think this isn't about them." So when when you've got a situation where politicians feel free to go after people who have suffered so horribly, you know, I think any opposition group is probably going to be primed to take some punches. And you know, Mayor Bloomberg has certainly you know, gotten his fair share of criticism from the other side. You know, so have we, so have the Newtown families, but we're not letting it stop us, and we are, you know, we're going to be out there, and we're going to be out there for the long haul, fighting for common sense gun laws.
You know, Wendy, I'm going to bring the table in a minute, just to ask them, if this were about marketing and you were trying to change hearts and minds of the American public and hearts and minds of the decision makers in Washington on this, what have you found since you've enlisted and gotten into this national dialogue, that there is a point where there's maybe more consensus than the politicians think there is, and that gun rights advocates are on board with you? If there is a sweet spot in this debate, what do you think it might be that might surprise some folks at home?
I would say anti-trafficking legislation. Even Carolyn Maloney has proposed some legislation and saying that we should make it a federal crime for you to purposely traffic in illegal guns. That we need to say that there are penalties for being a straw purchaser, for going out there and saying and knowingly buying a gun for someone who cannot buy one themselves, knowing that they're going to use it in a crime. That should be something that we punish. And that legislation, the NRA did not come out in opposition to it, and you know, I think that's as much an assent as you're going to get from that side on gun laws.
Finally, Wendy, before the next presidential election, unbelievable, we're already talking about it, but do you think there will be tangible federal changes in terms of who gets to own a gun, who checks what about that person before they purchase it, and what kind of guns they buy? Do you think the nation is not only ready but willing here to put pressure on Washington that that will change? Not might. Do you think it will change before 2016?
Before 2016? Oh yes, I have high hopes that it'll change before 2016. You know, I have hopes, less high hopes, but still hopes that it will change before 2014. I think you will definitely see change after 2014. I think that the American public has definitely seen that our politicians have not been acting as they ought to at the will of the people, and instead have been dancing to the whim of the gun lobby. And I think that you will see that come 2014, there's absolutely a political price to be paid for that. I'm hopeful that even before that point, we'll get somewhere on common sense, widely supported bipartisan legislation like background checks.
Well, we shall see. Wendy, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.